As Congress works to finalize some critical legislation, there is one that's taking place kind of under the surface that you may not be aware of, and that's the fight to keep AM radio in our cars. Well, momentum is building for the so-called AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act. But basically what this bill would do is mandate AM radios in all new cars due to the critical role that AM plays in emergency communication. And of course, that was most recently demonstrated in the hurricanes that we've had, Helene and Milton. Communities and first responders are strongly advocating for the bill, emphasizing AM radio's unique ability to provide life-saving updates when other communication systems fail. So what are the roadblocks here? What could that possibly be? Well, it may surprise you. And joining me here now to discuss this is Troy Miller. He's the president and CEO of NRB, the National Religious Broadcasters. It's an international association of Christian communicators who together reach millions of viewers, listeners, and readers. Troy, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to have you.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Jody. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. This AM thing, I think, is really, for the most part, kind of flying under the radar. But AM radio has been highlighted as a critical tool for communication, especially during emergencies. So why do you think it's vital to advocate for the preservation of AM radio in all new vehicles?
Well, first of all, I think you really hit the key one is the emergency response. The emergency response system has been built for decades now around AM radio, and it's the number one way to get the word out. AM has a unique frequency set to it that allows it to be able to broadcast even during storms that are going through. As you said, the two recent hurricanes we went through, AM radio was vital to keep listeners updated in those areas so they knew when to take shelter, when it was okay to take shelter, and then at the end, when to and where to find aid. One of the first things that goes down in these storms are the cell systems. So your cell towers and your internet and everything else becomes useless, and AM radio is where you're going to depend to get your information.
So why is there such a battle to do away with AM radio?
Well, it started off as a sort of battle with Ford, and they were looking at this, especially in electric vehicles, and said it was going to be, too expensive to keep AM radio. That turned out to be really a no-show, a no-starter here. And what it's really about, Jody, is all about who's going to control the dashboard. There's a real fight for the future of cars and who's going to control the dashboards. There's a number. If you bought a car probably in the last 3 to 5 years, one of the things you'll notice right off is there are a number of optional subscription services that you can get. You can get Google services and Apple services and all kinds of services in your car. And so there's a real fight to see who's going to control that dashboard. And if you can take away free radio, then that gives you a real leg up in being able to control the content that goes to the drivers and passengers in every car in this country.
And they can also track who's listening to what. Isn't that true?
Oh, that's right. Data collection is now a multi-billion-dollar business around the world. And so being able to track your subscription services, to track the apps that you're listening to track the podcasts that you're listening to, all of that information is key to marketers and also some nefarious folks to figure out what you're doing. And there's another side reason we think that AM radio is under attack. AM radio is still the top 3 genres that are on AM radio are teach and talk and Christian talk, conservative talk radio, and Spanish language radio. So there's a real push here to be able to take those genres off that are available to, quite frankly, tens of millions of people around the country. And that would, again, be able to allow those car companies or those edge providers of social media to control the messaging that goes out through the cars. And people spend a lot of drive time in their cars.
So that's another particular reason why Christians should care about this issue, right?
Oh, absolutely. Christians should definitely care about this issue. AM radio, first of all, as we talked about with Christian Talk and Teach and with Christian music formatting, are the top formats on AM radio. I grew up as a kid in rural Nebraska, and we listened to AM radio all the time. Used to be a lot of fun to get on night and get on the dial and see if you could pick up a radio station out of Denver or out of Texas or wherever. So it's an important way to communicate. And then conservative talk is out there as well. So Christians should care about this because, again, millions of people rely on this, especially rural audiences rely on this as their only form to be able to get free content. And that's the other thing about AM radio. We're talking about free content to the listeners out there. This will cut off a lot of people from being able to get messaging if they now have to pay for subscriptions in order to hear these same programs.
Less than a minute to go. Real quickly, what are some things that NRB is doing to help this legislation move forward?
Well, first of all, we've been a big supporter of the AM in every car legislation. We've been up on Capitol Hill a number of times. We have support from a number of broadcasters like you all there at Family Research Council, as well as the American Family Radio and a number of other people. The Speaker Johnson is behind us, so we have really good support. Right now, it just slowed down with all the electioneering that was going on. We're hoping as Congress meets before this year, they can get this through. If not, we're going to be pushing hard to make sure the bill's resubmitted in the 119th, and we think there's good momentum behind this to get this passed.
Thank you so much, Troy Mueller, President and CEO of National Religious Broadcasters. Great information. Thank you for bringing it out from underneath the rock so that our listeners and viewers can see it.